You're gonna serve somebody in the booth or on the street. You're gonna serve somebody. Every vote, every voice, every tweet might be the law, the dollar, or the folks who can't speak loud. You're gonna serve somebody. So say who you're serving now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Serve Somebody with Steve and Emily podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm your host, Steve Bradshaw, and as always, I'm joined by my good friend and co-host, Emily Hallaby. Emily, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Steve.
Tell us what's on your mind.
Well, it's been really interesting watching all of the new candidates go through qualifying and seeing how all of these different races are shaping up. And it's made me reflect back on when I ran for office. And one of the things that I heard ad nauseum from people was running for office is hard. And I remember thinking to myself, I've done hard. I've birthed 2 children. I've lost jobs. I've started a business. I managed to get through my parents' divorce and went off track and found my way back on track. I've done hard. Like, what could be so hard about this? And then you run for office and you're like, oh, this is what they meant by hard. And one of the hardest things for me was even people in your inner circle, maybe especially people in your inner circle, are constantly calling you, telling you what you need to be doing. And as someone who is very list-oriented, very like, let me check everything and do everything, running for office is not something that allows you to check anything off the list. There are too many people out there to connect with for you to be able to check everybody off the list and do everything. And so when you've got your inner circle calling you and telling you, you need to be doing more of X, Y, and Z. You need to be putting more yard signs in right-of-ways. You need to be putting more, you need to be talking to this person and that person. And the thing of it is that they're not saying, I see there's a lack of this happening. Let me help you. Nobody's saying, hey, let me do this. Let me take this off your plate. I know You're busy.
Yep.
And that's the hard part. And really, like, even when I helped with your campaign, Steve, during your run for CEO, people were still calling me, telling me what I needed to be doing for you. And I'm like, have you talked to Steve about this? And they'd be like, well, no, I didn't want to bother him. And I'm like, well, why are you calling me about it? And Steve, you and I talked about this, and like, your response was?
They're afraid of me. What was my actual response?
Your response was, well, I don't suffer fools.
Well, yeah, that's it.
And I'm like, well, I thought I was pretty good about not doing that either.
Yeah, but you know what? It's the way I was able to manage it this last time is because I'd run multiple times before.
Yeah.
And going through an election and losing, you really come to the determination I came to after losing the first time is I'm going to put my own judgment above everybody else's.
Yeah.
Period. End of story. And people are well-meaning.
Yes.
For the most part.
Yes.
Their intent is not sinister at all. They're trying to help. But somebody wise once told me a while ago, in politics, you got amongst the people who are your supporters, you got the people who want you to win and the people who will help you to win. Those are 2 very different things. Like you said, people call and you need to do this, that, and the other thing, but they don't say, well, let me take this off of your plate. Let me help you with that. That's a big difference.
It's a big
difference. And you just
difference.
got to learn to tune it out. But I understand. We probably will get into that with our guest a little bit.
Yeah.
But thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
And I would just say, if you're listening to this and you're passionate about a candidate, instead of calling with just advice, hey, why don't you lend a helping hand? And if you're a candidate or if you are someone who's thinking about running for office, think about, if somebody tells you it's hard, dig in and find out what's really hard about it.
Yes. There's nothing like it. And you were recalling your experiences I have similar experiences, including being in combat in a war zone. There's nothing like running for office. There's nothing like it. Anyway, thank you for sharing that. Appreciate that. Hope our audience got some good feedback out of that. So I'm sure we'll get into some of that with our guests. But before we get into it, I want to give a shout out to my good friend Al Davis and all the wonderful folks at Davis Manufacturing for helping to sponsor this program. We surely do appreciate that. And today, we are honored to have as our guest Mr. Olu Brown, who is now a candidate for governor of the state of Georgia. Thank you, Mr. Brown, for being with us here today. As we begin, is there anything you'd like to share with our audience?
Well, Steve and Emily, thank you so much for this opportunity to be on your podcast. My name is Olu Brown, and I'm running for governor of Georgia. When you go to the Secretary of State's website, I was one of the first to raise my hand back in August of 2024, because I believe leaders go first. And my hope and my dream being in this election is to offer what I've always done to the state of Georgia. That's to be a public servant, a person who helps build communities, who helps build families, who helps build faith communities, and also businesses, and to bring that to everyday Georgians. So I'm running for governor.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Mr. Brown. We understand that you are a former pastor.
Yes.
Previously led the Impact Church and the East Point United Methodist Church, growing congregations from small groups into multi-million-dollar operations. And today works as a leadership coach and consultant, and is also the author of 9 books.
Yeah.
That's quite an accomplishment.
Written a few of them.
He brings a combination of faith-based leadership, business experience, community engagement, all to his gubernatorial campaign. And once again, we're very, very honored and pleased to have you with us today.
Thank
so
you.
let's just start with this. Why do you want to be governor of the state of Georgia?
I want to be governor because I want to build a better Georgia for everyday Georgians. So often we elect officials, in particular in the governor's seat. They can afford everything, but they represent people who can't afford anything. And we wonder why nothing is done. It's because we're overlooking everyday Georgians. I was born in a small town, and so I understand small town living. And Metro Georgia is important, but as the next governor, I'm not only focused on Metro, I'm focused in the mountains, close to the Tennessee line. I'm focused on Metro, I'm focused on Middle, I'm focused on South, and even coastal Georgia, where I was just a week ago, and I've been there several times. And here's what I'm hearing from folks in Georgia when they see me show up. Olu, we're glad you're here. Don't forget about us, and please come back. And as the next governor, you won't have to come to the Capitol to see me. I'll come see you.
Very good. Well, as you well know, no Democrat has been elected governor of Georgia since 1998, although several have tried.
Yes.
So what's different about this year?
So what's different is I believe people are motivated and they're anxious about what's happening, not only in Georgia, but they're anxious about what's happening in the United States of America and around the world. We're watching the price of oil go up. And yes, our state government officials just recently passed a rebate on our gas tax. But the question is, why do we have to do that? That should not have been necessary. We've got folks in DC who aren't paying attention to our states, and we got folks in our state capital who aren't paying attention to our small towns and our rural communities. They don't understand the cost of a loaf of bread. They don't understand that there's a family tonight who can't afford to feed their children. They don't understand small business owners like me who buy their health care for their family on the exchange. And as of January, our monthly health care premium is more than our monthly mortgage. These are real problems facing real people, and they can't wait on another election to figure it out or to see if things are going to work out. They need a governor who is willing to take action now. My whole career, and this is what makes me different than career politicians. I don't get to stand up on payroll day and tell folks I owe money to that the Republicans didn't let me do it or the Democrats didn't let me do it. They depend on me as a leader to find a way. And I believe that's what's different about this time around, is that people are looking for elected officials who aren't making excuses. They're going to get the job done. And when we don't get the job done, say we got it wrong and move forward to get it right the next time. That's what's different about me, and I think that's what's different about this upcoming election.
Well, you've talked about a few issues in there, but what do you see are the biggest challenges facing our state, and how would you address them as governor?
Well, one, it's looking whole to part. We need leaders who take the whole state into viewpoint, meaning that we're focusing on our small rural towns, but we're also focusing on our big cities and this crazy thing we call traffic. You know, we were at the state capitol earlier this week, and right outside of the state capitol and the city offices for the city of Atlanta are some of the largest homeless populations in our state. We've got a $14 billion surplus, and we got people sleeping on the steps of the Capitol or sleeping on the steps of city of Atlanta. It's a real issue. Not only do we have homelessness, not only do we have traffic, we also have a lack of affordability for health care. So in our metro cities, we've got access to health care, but folks can't afford it. And then in our rural towns, we don't have access to health care. And that's an issue where you can get in a car accident 2 miles from downtown Atlanta, and it could cost you your life. Or you can get in a car accident in downtown Atlanta and you get a bill for $100,000 and you're bankrupt. So we're facing issues with homelessness, we're facing issues with housing affordability, we're facing issues with health care, and I'll tell you what else we're facing, an education challenge. I am so grateful that my mother was my 4th grade school teacher, and she never cried so much in her life until she taught me, but we both made it through. I was raised by educators. My degree is in elementary education. I've got a lifetime teaching certificate. So when I talk about education, it's personal to me. Here's the issue with education in Georgia. We've been training kids to compete with the Southeast, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas. That's not good enough. We've got to train kids to compete on an international level, which is why I'm proposing the 12+2 promise, so that every kid who graduates from a high school in Georgia gets either one of 2 certificates, an IT certificate or a trade certificate. And they're ready to compete not only in the United States of America, but they're able to compete globally. But here's the other thing about education. If we really value our kids, but yet our teachers are some of the lowest paid in the United States of America, that's an issue. Let me go back to my mom. 2 degrees. She graduated from an HBCU in Texas called Prairie View A&M. And then she graduated with her master's from the University of Georgia. Single parent mom, 3 kids. Here's a memory that I have growing up. Seeing my mother, who was a public school teacher, with a checkbook on a couch with tears in her eyes because there was never enough. We should never allow our educators to do what they love but can't afford to live. We need to raise starting teacher pay to more than $50,000, be first in the SEC, not only in football, but be first in SEC in teacher pay. And then secondly, when we talk about our state income tax, what would happen if you had a governor who said for every veteran teacher who's been teaching 5 years or more, no more state income tax? That's an immediate $3,500, $4,000 raise in their paycheck, because a lot of teachers will never tell you this secret, and it's a shameful secret, that they get paid less even when the governor gives them a little stipend because they're buying shoes for their kids. They're buying clothes for the kids in their classroom. And guess what? If a kid comes in and they don't have enough food because they didn't eat breakfast, guess who buys them breakfast? That teacher. So that's what's happening in Georgia, and I believe I'm the right person to give some solutions to those issues.
Well, you brought up homelessness,
Yes.
and that's an issue that's very important to me. I'm curious how you would address the homelessness issue in Metro Atlanta and across the state.
Well, I'll say it nicely. I won't use a word that I would use outside of this podcast. You got to care. That's the first thing. A lot of our elected officials are disconnected from the real issues that are facing our state. And then you've got elected officials outside of Metro where homelessness may not be as much of an issue, but it is an issue. They say that's an Atlanta issue. That's a Metro issue. But guess what? Homelessness anywhere is an issue to Georgia everywhere. So that's the first thing. You have to care. Secondly, I've got a long history as a faith leader partnering with a lot of nonprofit entities in the state of Georgia. They have the solutions. They just need a governor who brings them together in one room, and we don't let anybody out until we come up with a solution to homelessness in the state of Georgia. And then guess what those nonprofits would love to have? Just a little bit of money to do the work that they already do. And guess what we have? We got a $14 billion surplus. So imagine a governor who brings United Way together and all of these other nonprofits and say, when we leave this room with a solution to homelessness in the state of Georgia, here's $1 billion to go do what you do best. And I promise you, in less than 5 years, we can solve homelessness in the state of Georgia. but we just can't look at it silo. We've got to address mental health. We have to address the economics of it. We have to address family background. And we also have to ask, what are the systemic laws and decisions that we've made in our state that actually has helped to create homelessness for some individuals?
Well, before you can face a Republican in the general election,
Yes.
you've got to get through the primary. So why should Democrats vote for you in the primary?
So here's what they got to know. Out of the 6 of us who are running, I am the outsider. I am the one who is not a current or formerly elected official. And here's what you got to understand about current and former elected officials. They've got a lot of enemies. And they've also have taken some favors from some folks who have helped them get elected. And so it doesn't matter what they tell you. If you elect one of those insiders, before they get to your problem, they have to get to the person who helped them get elected problem. They have to get around the enemy that they made 3 elections ago. Electing an outsider like Olu Brown, day one, I work for you. I don't owe anyone anything. I don't have the enemies that they have. I don't have the favors that I got to pay back that they have. And guess what? On top of that, I can get the job done. People say, what's your political resume? Well, if a political resume made a difference, our state and our country wouldn't be where it is. We need folks who go to jobs and have careers that excuses aren't allowed. You've got to raise a budget. You have to meet this mandate. You have to lock yourself into a room with some of the smartest people in the world, and you got to come out with a solution. And not only come out with a solution, but you have to execute that solution. We started a faith community in Metro Atlanta with 25 volunteers. And 15 years later, it was the largest Methodist faith community in the state of Georgia, one of the fastest growing in the country, with a multi-million-dollar budget and a multi-million-dollar payroll. To do that, you got to work with everybody. You've got to deal with really tough issues. You have to work with the county. You have to work with the city. You have to work with the state. You have to work with Asian Americans, Latino Americans, white Americans, Black Americans. You don't get an opportunity to say, I choose this group over this group. You have to find really good solutions to very tough situations. And that's what I've done my whole career. And I believe that's what we need in our next governor.
So you made a point about making enemies.
Yes.
I'm going to let you in on a secret. Okay. Once you win,
yes,
you start making decisions, you'll make enemies.
This is true.
It'll happen.
This
you
is
don't
true.
have to go looking for them.
No.
Because what you realize is you can't please everybody.
Yes.
So, but I digress. So, I'll ask an overtly political question. You're currently trailing your opponents in fundraising.
Yes.
And in the polls.
Yes.
That's today.
Yes.
Election's not today. So how do you plan to overcome those deficits?
Well, a couple of things. If polls and fundraising elected candidates, we wouldn't have the current mayor of New York and we wouldn't have the current governor of Maryland. If you look at their statistics, they were behind, but yet they're in office. I take those things very seriously. But if you look at fundraising in my previous career, over the 15 years as a faith leader, I raised more than $40 million. And if you compare that to what these current folks in this race have raised, on paper, I've raised more than they have. We've just got 2 different donor bases, and they've got a fresh, hot donor base, so they're going to get out of the box faster. This is a marathon. And when I check marathon races, it's not the person who's first in mile 1 or 2 or 3, but it's the person who crosses that finish line. I persevere, I don't quit, and I know that my message is resonating with the people. So we're crisscrossing the state. I'm doing everything that I need to do to reach our donor base, existing, our new donor base. But at the end of the day, I believe the people who have supported me over the years and the new people who are meeting me for the first time will show up for this primary election. And I'll be honest with you, as an outsider, we knew we wouldn't raise what some of the insiders would raise. So that was never a part of our game plan. We wanted to get to the people. And we believe if we do that, the people will show up for us.
Well, the marathon is a good analogy.
Yes.
Very good analogy. I was a distance runner way back in the day, so I understand what you're talking about.
Thank you.
Well, we understand that you conducted statewide listening tours.
Yes.
What were your takeaways from that experience?
So here are the 3 questions we asked. What do you love about Georgia? What are your concerns about Georgia? And what would you change? Some of the biggest responses is what I mentioned earlier. Olu, thank you for being here. Please don't forget about us, and please come back again. There are so many Georgians outside of the Metro Belt who feel unseen and as if this whole political system, whether it's a Republican or Democrat, doesn't even know they exist. I go to places like Baxley, Georgia, and the response is we need something for our kids. And so other responses are around education. Other responses are around teacher pay. And then you don't even have to hear the word verbally. You're passing through what used to be a vibrant warehouse that employed most of the town that's now rusting over. And so nobody has to tell you, we need new industry. No one needs to tell you, our economics are challenged here. Or you go through other parts of the state and the retail is no longer there. There's this mall that's now a parking lot for Amazon, but once was this vibrant community. And so those are some of the things that not only we're hearing, but we're also seeing. And that's what's important about the next governor. You have to continue to travel the state. You can't get in this bubble, whether it's the place where you were originally from, even if it's outside of Atlanta, or if you make Atlanta or Metro your bubble. Part of my success in my career, and folks will say this, who I served as their pastor, you know, Olu shows up at the football game. You know, Olu showed up at my kid's graduation, and I can't tell you how many hospital rooms I've been in, or funeral homes I've been in, or would you come bless my new law firm in corporate America, or government centers throughout our state. That's been my marquee to leadership. One of the powerful assets of a leader isn't a bully pulpit, but it is the power of presence. And that's what I'll do as the next governor. I'll show up.
You make a very salient point about showing up.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So if you're elected governor, unless there's a blue wave statewide,
yes,
you're going to have to deal with a Republican-controlled General Assembly. So how do you intend to navigate that dynamic to get your agenda passed?
Well, first, we're pushing to get as many Democrats elected as we can in this election cycle. And secondly, if that doesn't happen, I'll do what I've always done. I have not had a career that has given me the liberty of working with select groups of individuals. To go from 25 volunteers to one of the largest faith communities in the state of Georgia, you have to work with everyone. And when it comes to religion, there is no greater distance between people. There are folks who lose their lives over their religious beliefs. And so I think I can handle the difficulties around politics because I've had to sit across the table with people who think differently, believe differently, and act differently. And to be honest, we'll never agree on everything. Part of my leadership ability has been to come into a room and say, okay, we're not going to leave here with 100%. Give me 25. And let's get to that 25 as quickly as we can. And let's celebrate that 25. And maybe the next time we're at 35, and that's good. And that's what I'll do with our Republican constituents. And that's what I will do with our Republican elected officials. But the third thing I'll do for our Republican sisters and brothers who are elected officials, I'll probably show up in their districts more than they are. And their elected or their constituents will say, well, hey, that guy's a Democrat and I'm a Republican, but something's going on here. I've seen him a little bit more than I've seen you, and you're my elected official. That's going to change the conversation, and ultimately it's going to change the culture where even our Republican elected officials will know this guy, although a Democrat, isn't here to judge us, isn't here to make us do something we don't want to do. He is really here for all of Georgia. Let's see how we can work together.
Okay, very good. That's a good segue. I wanted to ask more of a philosophical question.
Yes.
For someone who's been a pastor.
Yes.
What is the proper balance between religion and politics, between church and state? How do you view that?
Well, everyone sees it differently. My faith does not deny anyone else's faith. I was in coastal Georgia and a gentleman came up and said, hey, I know you're a pastor. I'm an atheist. What do you do about that? Nothing. My faith does not deny whatever you believe or whatever you don't believe. As a matter of fact, it positions me to honor you even better than a lot of folks who will try to force whatever belief system they have on you. I believe as it relates to politics and religion, those who really practice whatever that faith tradition is, and they're honest with it, it causes them to make room for everyone and create a broad table where everyone can sit together. It reminds me of that great Georgia named Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who in his I Have a Dream speech talked about a broad table where brothers and sisters can sit down together. That's the tradition of Georgia, but if we don't practice it, we don't see the greatest parts of Georgia. And as the next governor, I want to live into that tradition of making room for everyone.
Very good.
Well, with that in mind, how has your experience as pastor informed your political philosophy and policy?
Yeah. So for me, it's always about being a public servant. And so whether that was during my years as a pastor, now I'm a small business owner and I get an opportunity to consult with leaders throughout the country. The base for me is always being a servant and a public servant in this case, making sure I'm honest, making sure I'm a person of ethical character, and making sure that I'm always doing the right thing for the client when it comes to business. And guess what? In politics, my client, it's the people. And at the end of the day, as governor, when I start and when I finish my day, the question I'll ask myself, did I do all that I could for the people of Georgia? And if the answer is yes, we've had a good day. And if the answer is no, we gotta get better the next day. So that's where I stand.
Okay. Talked about you being an outsider.
Yes.
We'll underscore that you haven't held public office
No.
before. You haven't run for public office before.
Yes.
So why run for governor as your initial foray into the world of politics?
So a couple of things. Our state currently has two precedents for our two highest elected federal officials, Warnock and Ossoff, who are first-time office holders. And so if they can do it, we should also be able to do it in other positions throughout our state. Secondly, I've often noticed in any arena, whether it's academic, business, religious, or political, there are folks who will run for certain offices and run for certain things that they care nothing about and don't have any idea about that community or those people. And sometimes they win, and ultimately they do that group that they're supposed to represent a disservice. I would rather you run for an office in a group of people that you care about, that you have knowledge of, so that when you win, you can really be their greatest advocate. And so for me, it's running for governor. And I'm giving it all that I have, and I'm giving it my best shot. And people who have known me all my life would say Olu's wanted to do two things with his life. He wanted to be a pastor and a politician. And so had a great time as a pastor, and now the transition is into a
Are
politician.
you having a great time as a politician?
And here's a little quick funny comment. Folks will say, Olu, how do you go from being a pastor to a politician? They don't know what pastoring is about because,
You're right.
my God. My saying is people are people. And people show up in a lot of different ways in congregations and in faith communities. And it doesn't mean, I overlook all that it takes to be a politician. I honor those who have served and those who serve. And like anybody, everybody who's running for governor right now on Republican or Democratic side, they've never been a governor. So everybody's got a learning curve. And if anybody tells you they know what they're going to do day one, they're lying because they've never done the job before. Here's what I believe great leaders do. They're never the smartest people in the room. They gather the smartest people, and they're not afraid to make a decision. And that's what I'll do as the next governor.
Well, you said you've always wanted to be a politician. Who are your political heroes?
So those who have moved on and those who are here, it's a great collage of individuals. Shirley Chisholm and Barbara Jordan, growing up in Texas.
Oh, yes.
Oh, my goodness. Just hearing the stories of Barbara Jordan and her influence. Now, here's another person that's going to surprise you. Growing up in Texas, Governor Ann Richards, a fireball. You couldn't grow up in Texas without knowing the story of Governor Ann Richards. And to think about being a woman elected in the South as governor in that time, a trailblazer. And so, of course, our current elected officials, from Senator Ossoff to Senator Warnock, and even those folks who never served in a political office, but had some of the greatest political influence in the world, And we can't forget about those in the civil rights movement. And a lot of those folks, thankfully, were here from Georgia.
Yeah. Well, tell us about your family.
Yes. So I'm grateful for my family, and we have a blended family. My wife and I are both small business owners, but her previous career was as a veteran educator, more than 20 years. Part of that was in the classroom, and the last few years of her career in education was in administration. And so together we've got two daughters who are 21. One just graduated from Spelman College, and so she's now in the working world. The next one is there at Duke University, and she's a junior, and I just had a call with her about money. And so for folks who are watching this,
What?
Yeah, I understand. And then the next is 18, and he's a freshman at University of Georgia. And then the youngest is 14, and he's an 8th grader. So after we tape this wonderful podcast and I do some other things, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to be in Carline. And most mornings when I'm in town, I'm dropping him off at school. And most evenings when I'm in town, I'm picking him up, and I'm at a baseball game like I was at last night. So that's our family. They're each embracing this race in their own way. But the decision when this thing started was to have fun, you know, and you talk about some philosophical things. And of course, as a faith leader, this informs my life. And I truly believe we go around this thing once and that's it. And what a regret to get to the end of life and whatever that is. And to have regrets that there were some things you should have done and could have done, but you didn't do it. And so for me, this is more than a check box. This is what I believe my life is called to for this season. And that's a continuation of public service. But grateful for my family. They support me, they pray for me, and I'm glad to be going through this journey with them.
Well, I have a 7th grader and he plays baseball, so I'm curious to know where your son plays baseball.
Yes. Well, he plays currently for the FCA League, and so they play all over.
Okay.
And he is about to start a new league in Peachtree City.
Oh, wow.
And so that's going to take on another travel cycle. And I was talking to a parent last night who was at another park with his kid, and they're on this crazy travel baseball cycle. So he plays with 2 or 3 leagues, and it seems to be the sport that he's most invested in.
What position does he play?
So I at the game the night before last, he was pitcher. And I was like, Langston, when did you start pitching? And he's like, well, they needed me to pitch. But mostly he's first base. He can pitch if you need him to. And then before the game was over, they had him on third base. So that night he was in 3 different positions.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
But he enjoys it.
You learn a lot about people when you see how they respond to their kids on the field.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
As spectators.
I was at my godson's game on Saturday morning. Yes.
Yep.
It's interesting.
It's
Yeah.
intense.
Yeah.
So tell us a little more about what you're doing professionally now.
So when I retired from pastoral ministry about 3.5 years ago, we launched a company that works with leaders throughout the country, and it helps them focus on vision, and it helps them focus on leadership. It helps them focus on organization and staffing, raising, as we would call it for some of them, generosity. But the marketplace would call it dollars and cents, but it's all the same thing to the local bank that's banking your money. And so we really help leaders become better and grow and scale their organizations. And that's something I've had a lot of history with, of starting small but growing. And we've been very successful with that endeavor. I'm an author, and we've written about 9 different books, and some of those are curriculum based, and so we can teach our own material, and others of those are inspirational. My last book was dedicated to my mother who passed in 2024. And like any parent, you write things and you send them home. And I would send these books home, and one day she said, Olu, why don't you write a book for everyone? And so my latest book is on faith, because out of all the spiritual disciplines, faith is one that I struggle with the most. And as I talk to people from everyday walks of life, that's what they struggle with: anxiety, fear, concern. And so it's a book that speaks about my own faith journey, but it also hopefully gives inspiration and information to others. So I get a chance to travel Georgia. I took 34 trips on Delta Airline last year. I get a chance to travel the U.S. And just to say a note about that for the governor, I think often when people think about a governor, They want she or he to be well respected in that state. And that's important. But a governor doesn't govern just in Georgia. You got to make some deals with Alabama. You got to make some deals with Florida. And so my travels have taken me across the country. And there are people who know me from the faith world and the business world who will say, that's a really good person. And so that's another thing that I bring to this governor's office, is an individual who is not only known and not only respected in Georgia, but who's also known and respected throughout the United States of America.
Very good.
Well, now for some fun.
Yes.
Steve and I constantly discuss movies, our favorite movies. Steve, I just watched the Peaky Blinders movie.
Oh, did you?
Have you watched it yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Is it worth it?
It's worth it.
Okay.
It's worth it.
All right. I'm going to take your word for it.
I wouldn't add it to my favorite movie list, but
Okay.
it's worth it.
Okay.
But we're curious, Olu, what is your favorite movie?
All right. So this is going to surprise you. I could watch Turner Classic Movies all day. One of my favorite actors is Jimmy Stewart. And interesting enough, my favorite movie for him is not the Christmas movie that he's known for. My favorite movie for Jimmy Stewart is Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. And so that's one of my favorite movies and one of my favorite actors of past. But of course, I've got a lot of favorite movies that I watch now currently and a lot of favorite actors and actresses.
That's great. I love the shout out for TCM. Too.
Yeah. yeah.
They're one of my clients. So
Okay,
all right.
yeah,
that's right.
I'm a big supporter of theirs.
Yeah. And every morning when I'm home for TV, I'm probably watching Andy Griffith or Gunsmoke or something like that. I think that's the
Classics, man.
Yeah.
Classics. I'm a big Leave It to Beaver guy.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I love
oh my
Leave It to Beaver.
goodness, that show cracks me up. All right. In that vein, not to get you in any trouble with the missus.
Yes.
But do you have any celebrity crushes that you want to share with us or our audience?
For me, I guess I'd be safe to say no. I don't. Okay. No, but I told my wife the other day, she is the most beautiful person to me. And it was interesting. We were talking about movies, and you'll see the casting directors. And I told her, this is a true story, I said, if I were a casting director, I'd cast you in every movie. And people would get upset with me, but I really believe you're the most beautiful person that I know.
Aww.
And so that is my celebrity crush.
All right. Okay. Well played.
Yeah. Well, and you said that you're a blended family, so how
Yes.
long have y'all been married?
So we've been married a little bit more than a year.
Okay.
And so very new marriage, but thankfully she's been a person who's been a friend for a long time.
Aw, that's
Oh,
sweet.
wow. Great.
Yeah, and her name is Tammy.
All right.
T-A-M-I. I know there are a lot of variations of Tammy.
Shout out to Tammy. Okay, so campaigning, crisscrossing the state is grueling.
Yes.
So how do you attend to yourself? How do you take care of yourself on the
Well,
campaign
several
trail?
things, and all of these are really true stories. I'm a part of a workout group in metropolitan Atlanta, not too far from downtown, and we start boot camp at 4:30 a.m.
Dang.
So my alarm typically goes off at 3 a.m.
Ouch.
And and I'm at boot camp at 4:30, and then we roll into a second boot camp at 5:30. So before 7 o'clock in the morning, I try to burn about 1,000 calories, and then I mess it up with Dunkin' or Chick-fil-A. So that's my excuse to eat what I want. And then I'm in car line, by 7:45, and so by 8 o'clock in the morning, we've had some exercise. I've had time with our youngest. But I've discovered exercise is also mental health therapy for me as well. And then secondly, I talk about this openly, even as a pastor. We did a lot of work around mental health. I have my own therapist. So one of my appointments before this podcast was my monthly 1 hour virtual check-in with my therapist. And it's something that I do each month. It helps me mentally, it helps me physically, it helps me spiritually. And then thirdly, making sure we're spending time with our family. Of course, the kids are scattered, but my wife and I really do enjoy hanging out with each other and going to date night. One of our favorite restaurants is Red Lobster. And so we do Red Lobster a lot. And I'm so glad that her price point is not too high. So even our date nights, are affordable. And then as a faith leader, there are certain spiritual disciplines that I try to attend to. And those are things such as prayer. Attending religious gatherings, and also reading of scripture. And then the final thing that I do is hopefully but not always well, is not take myself too seriously.
Yeah.
All my life, I've been one of those folks that I've always known what next looks like. If you ask me, Olu, what are you going to eat for breakfast 2 years from now? I can almost tell you what it is. But sometimes life doesn't work out the way we want it to. My grandmother, my mother's mother used to say, you plan too much, P-L-A-N. And that helped me to understand you can plan life as much as you want, but sometimes life takes a curve. And I believe those are the moments when we really show up. It's not when things are going straight, but it's in the curve of life. And my hope is taking care of myself, taking care of my family. It's not only that we're doing well in the straight moments, but in those curves that we've got enough hope, love, and faith built in that, like anybody, we can make it through those moments. So those are some of the things that I do.
Very good.
Well, as a first-time candidate, as I mentioned,
Yes.
like it can be very hard.
Yes.
Is there anything that surprised you about being a candidate this time out, or any advice that you would want to share with other candidates or people thinking about running for office?
So our campaign chair, who had ran previously for office, he told me some wisdom and gave me some good knowledge. He says, Olu, people will lie to you. And I've experienced that. More so than I would like. And here's the way I'm wired. And this is in business, this is in faith community. I would rather you tell me the truth, even if it's not what I want to hear, because it helps me to assess quickly and then move on. And what people often don't realize who don't tell you the truth, it puts extra burden on them. Because, for instance, if I'm asking you for support and you don't want to support me, but 2 or 3 times you say, I'll think about it, well, those are 2 or 3 times that you didn't have to entertain me. So it's actually cost you time and it's cost me time. When the first time you could have said, hey, Olu, I'm supporting your opponent. I'll shake your hand and tell you, thank you. Guess what? You never have to deal with me again. So when you're not honest with other people, it actually costs you in situations that it shouldn't. But that's been a surprise, not so much that it's a reality, because I've experienced that in my life personally and professionally, but that it happened so quickly, after he told me. But I'm grateful for that wisdom.
Yeah, I do remember, some very specific instances of people saying, other like elected officials asking for their endorsement, and then they'd be like, oh, I'm not going to endorse, I like both of you. And then literally the next day, they'd come out and endorse my opponent. And I was like, what on earth, happened between last night and were you lying to me the whole time? Anyway, so you end up seeing a side of people that.
Well, and not to make this into a therapy talk, but like I said, just had my session. And one of the things my therapist helped me to understand over the years, when those experiences happen to you, Olu, you got to realize that's not about you.
Right.
And unfortunately, we make those types of things personal. And that's been another learning experience in this political race. Olu, don't take it personally. that really is not about you. They just met you, or they knew you for a long time, or whatever it is. But hear it, take it, and move on. Because for the very small minority who may do something different or oppose you, or who may not be in favor of you, there is this majority of people who are just waiting for you to stop by. Stay focused on those folks.
Yeah.
That's very good advice. Well, I chuckled earlier when you talked about your experience as a pastor.
Yes.
Because both of my grandfathers were pastors,
Oh,
so
wow.
I got to see how that operates growing up. So I take it to heart.
Yes.
So as we get ready to kind of wind down, are there any closing comments, anything you'd like to share with our audience as we start to wrap up?
Well, one, thank you to both of you for this podcast. I believe interviewing and sharing wisdom and information that the two of you have from your personal experiences, but also the folks you're interviewing, it's a part of democracy. It's the free press. And we need to share as many views as possible, whether we agree with those views or we don't. Because when we stop this type of freedom of press and media, we're really not the country that we need to be. So thank you. Thank you both. My name is Olu Brown, and I'm running for governor of Georgia because I want to build a better Georgia for everyone. I'm an everyday Georgian, and I understand what the cost of bread is. I understand that gas prices are unaffordable, and before they were raised, they were also unaffordable. I understand that there are people who are driving to work, and what you're going to make hourly in work doesn't cover the cost that it took just to get to work. You know, I was raised to believe that leaders go first. And so I raised my hand to run for governor of Georgia because I believe in you, and I also believe in Georgia. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a faith leader, I'm a small business owner, I'm a protector, and I'm a provider. And as your next governor, not only will I fight for you, I will also fight with you. Go to my website, oluforga.com. I need your support, I need your volunteerism, I need your donations, but most importantly, on May 19th, I need you to vote for me, and also early vote before May 19th. Olu Brown, Governor of Georgia.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Brown, for sharing your insights with us today. It was informative, it was fun,
Thank you.
and we wish you the best of luck on the campaign trail. Thank you, Emily, again for sharing this foxhole with me. Anything you'd like to say as we close?
Just good luck to all the candidates out there. We've got a nice Democratic field, and so I'm excited about how it's all going to play out.
Excellent. Well, thanks again to Davis Manufacturing for sponsoring today's program. Thanks again always to our team here at the Scottdale Podcast Cafe for doing a great job in supporting us. And for our audience, if you have any ideas about possible guests, future topics, please visit our website and drop us a note at servesomebodypodcast.com and via the usual social media platforms. Also note that our episodes are available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. We understand that time is the most valuable resource that any of us have. So we are sincerely thankful to you for spending some of your precious time giving us a listening ear. We will never take that for granted. These are indeed serious times. So until next time, just remember to think for yourself and don't fall for the show. Goodbye.
You're gonna serve somebody in a booth.